Hey kids, Mr. Jefferson here. Want to send you some love. I look forward to getting into God's Word today with you. We're still going to continue with the life of David. We're going to be going through the book of 1 Samuel a little bit, and the book of 2 Samuel as well. That's in the Old Testament. So if you got your Bibles handy, 1 Samuel and 2 Samuel, okay? And I want to also share this web address, or email address I should say, with your parents. It's ccumakids@gmail.com. Again, ccumakids@gmail.com. And I'm sorry that I haven't gotten this out to your folks earlier, but normally on a Wednesday night or a Sunday, when we have a study, when we're getting into the Bible, we've got something like coloring sheets or word searches or take-home stuff that's fun, that helps us stay focused. It helps us to remember what we've learned. And I think it draws us closer to God too, because if we're remembering what God tells us and we're putting it in here, not just in our heads, which does kind of leak out a little bit because we have two holes right here. We have one ear hole and one ear hole too. So when we're listening, things leak out of our head. So it helps to keep things in our head and also help to put things in our heart too. Not the piece of meat that just goes boom, 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 but what we call our heart, right? That part where we say, I love you with all my heart, or my heart is breaking. Our heart, what we call our heart. So helps put God's word in our hearts, and that's important. Let's pray for the lesson today, and we will have some puppet fun today too, so relax. We didn't have any last week, but just bear with me today, and we will have some silly times too while we're learning about God's word. Let's pray. Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for my brothers and sisters, God, who are together with me right now, watching and listening, God. I pray for their hearts and their heads, God. I pray that you just open their hearts to receive your word, God, as we go into it. Open their heads, God, to put it in their little computers up in their heads, God, to hold things in there, to remind them of things that you'd want them to be reminded of. We love you and we thank you for this day. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, let's get into the lesson. All right, let's get the lesson started. When you have something special, do you keep it safe or do you just leave it lying around outside? Right, you keep it safe. And there's many ways you can keep something safe. One way is to put something in a box. I've got a box right here. It's painted. It was made, I think it was made by Carla's grandfather. It's pretty cool. It's got a little handle. And what's inside? Kleenexes. So it's out here in my shed. So if I ever have to get a Kleenex, this is dust free, so the dust won't get in there, and bug free, so I won't get any bugs in my Kleenex if I have to blow my nose or something. So boxes are really good for keeping things in. And back in biblical times, God gave Moses the design for this, called the Ark of the Covenant. And yes, it was a box, a very fancy one, but it was a box. And it was very, very designed, a lot of style. And the lid here, they had two cherubim on it, two angels, two little statues of angels on there. And this box was very important. It was carried around with the people of Israel after they left Egypt. And when they were wandering in the desert for 40 some odd years, so it was 40 years, not some odd, but it was 40 years. And they would carry this around. It would go in, if you remember, the tabernacle, which was like a bunch of carpets and rugs put together. It was like a mobile church. And whenever the people of Israel would get up and move, they'd take this tabernacle with them. When they found a place they wanted to stop, or when God told them to stop, they would stop. They'd set up the tents. Like I got my little camo tent here. They'd set up the carpets, rugs, whatever. And it was like a portable building where they traveled. In this tabernacle, there was a special room called the Holy of Holies. And that is where Moses would go in and talk to God. And this Ark of the Covenant was so special that this Ark of the Covenant was in the same room as the Holy of Holies. So when Moses would go in and talk to God, this was right there in the same room. Crazy, huh? Even though it was still just made of wood and covered with gold, and that God designed it, it was very, very special to the children of Israel. It's a very awesome thing. I mean, I would definitely not want to leave this lying around. I would take very good care of it. And like any present or anything you get, it's not the wrapping so much, but what's inside. And God had them put 3 things inside. He had them put a gold bowl full of some manna, put aside some manna, put that in there. Also, Aaron, if you remember Aaron, he was Moses' brother, and his staff. And a staff is another word for a rod or a stick that had actually budded some flowers on it, and that was in there. That was the same rod that he threw down at Pharaoh's feet that turned into a snake. So that's a very important part of Israel's history. And there was also what I call the second edition of the 10 Commandments. So there were 2 stone tablets of the 10 Commandments that were in there as well. Because you remember, after God gave Moses the 10 Commandments, Moses came down the mountain. He saw the people of Israel just being stupid and doing things they shouldn't do. He was so angry that he broke the 10 Commandments. So this was the second edition. It wasn't the first one that he took Gorilla Glue and super glue and glued them all together and put them in there. No, this was the second 10 Commandments, or second edition. So those were in there. So very important things. And this was something that was very treasured in Israel. They really, really, really enjoyed this, and as they should, because God designed it, and it had those things in there that were very, very important to their history. Well, sometime even before David is on the battlefield fighting Goliath, and before Saul is king, in the book of 1 Samuel chapter 4, we find that the nation of Israel is, fighting the Philistines. And remember, Goliath was a Philistine. And they're fighting the Philistines, and they happen to lose a battle. And they lost 4,000 men. So that means 4,000 of the people of Israel just died in one day. Man, just think if you were a soldier back then, and you go out and you're God's people, right? And you go out to take on the Philistines, and then you get beaten, and 4,000 of your countrymen die. Wow, they were pretty sad for sure. I can't even imagine what they went through. But in verse 3, I want to read this to you. It said, when the people had come into the camp, so after the soldiers were coming back to camp, like, they're probably all sore and bleeding and hurt because they'd just gotten defeated. It says, the elders of Israel And the elders were ones that were more knowledgeable. Usually they knew more. Usually they had a lot of wisdom prayerfully about how to make certain choices. Just because somebody's older I should say, doesn't mean they're wise. It doesn't mean they know everything. But usually an elder is someone who's experienced enough of life. And if these folks were the elders of Israel, they would have known the scriptures. They would have known a lot of history. They should have been wiser than the average Israelite, put it that way. And we have elders in our church as well that watch over things. They watch over the ministries. They help out Pastor Albert when he wants help with something, and they give him good advice too when he wants to get some good advice. So the elders were very, very important. So here we go, verse 3. They'd just gotten beat, and now they're coming back, and the camp of the elders are there. And the elders are saying this. The elders said, "Why has the Lord defeated us today before the Philistines?" So pretty much, why did God let us get beat by the Philistines today? He said, "Let us bring the ark of the covenant of the Lord from Shiloh," and Shiloh is just a town in Israel, "to us, that when it comes among us," so when the ark comes to us, "that it," meaning the ark, "may save us from the hand of our enemies." Whoa! Wait a minute. They're saying, let's bring this ark that it might save us. No. Can a piece of wood save you? Well, maybe, I guess, if you've got a bear coming at you and you got to hit it with a stick, right? But the Ark of the Covenant, they were putting their faith into this box, okay? A very important box, but they were putting their faith in this box, not God who had designed the box, but they were making something that God had for them to keep things in it to remind them of his greatness. They were making this box an idol. Is terrible. And so they went into battle. They took the ark. As the ark entered the camp, everybody in Israel got so pumped up and excited, like, woo, we've got the ark, let's go, yay. And the Philistines heard this, and they're like, man, what's going on over there? And the Philistine said in verse 7 of chapter 4, they said, "God has come into the camp. Woe to us, for such a thing has never happened before. Woe to us! Who will deliver us from the hand of these mighty gods? These are the gods who struck the Egyptians with all the plagues in the wilderness. Be strong and conduct yourselves like men, you Philistines, that you don't become servants of the Hebrews." So the Philistines, they were afraid. They didn't worship God, but they knew of the mighty deeds that God had done and that he was with them. And they were afraid. But it turns out, because the people of Israel put their faith and made this an idol, God allowed it to be taken by the Philistines. Oh yeah. And so they took it. The Philistines took the ark, took it back to their country, and some bad things happened. While the ark was there, they put the ark in their temple before their statue god Dagon. He was a fish. I think he was a fish god, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. It must have had a fish head or something weird. But when they'd wake up in the morning, their god Dagon, who was just wood or brick or whatever he was made out of, stone. I think he was made of stone. They would find him like the statue kneeling face down before the Ark of the Covenant for a couple mornings, until finally the They just said, what's going on? Let's leave it alone. People started getting killed, dying of like boils, and a plague broke out. So all these bad things were happening. And yes, it was because they'd taken something precious from Israel, the Ark of the Covenant. So they were suffering because of it. God was having these things happen to the Philistines. And the Philistines were like, wow, we got to get rid of this thing. So they took it and they stuck it on a cart. They had a couple milking cows take it back to Israel. And so they took it back to Israel, and the people, when they saw it coming down the road, can you imagine how excited they were? Their ark was coming back. I mean, prayerfully they had learned their lesson a little bit about putting so much faith in the Ark of the Covenant and not having their faith in God. And it happens all over today. People who don't know the Lord really well, or don't know Him at all, they will worship the creation versus worshiping the Creator. They can look at a sunset or a sunrise and go, wow, that is so beautiful. But they don't give God the credit. They don't give God the glory. He made the sun. He made everything, right? So why not give God the credit? Yeah, so it happens still today. Well, the ark enters Israel, and there is a lot of celebration. And I'm going to get some friends to help me with the rest of this. Well, kids, I told you I was going to have a friend finish off the lesson today, and here he is, my friend Maurice. Dude, that's Maurice, bro. Oh, sorry, Maurice. I'm glad you could come here. What is it that you wanted to go over as far as finishing up the lesson? Well, I want to talk about obeying God, following His instructions, because that's a totally righteous thing to do. Yes, it is. It is very important to obey God. All throughout the Bible, there are examples of people that didn't obey God. I mean, we talked today about how the Philistines, moved the ark. They used cows to move the Ark of the Covenant, and I know that was not good. Dude, don't steal my thunder. That's where I'm going. Okay, all right, I'm sorry. Well, go ahead. Proceed. Thank you, bro. Well, God had told them long time ago, after they had made the Ark of the Covenant, when they were still traveling in the desert, to totally move the Ark using the Levitical priest. And the priest would carry the ark around on sticks, bro, like wild stuff. And they would walk with their little sandals all over the desert. And that's how they were to carry it. But David made a big time mistake. What did David do? What mistake did he make? David took the ark and he stuck it on a cart. And he had some oxen carry the cart through to Jerusalem. And on the way, it hit a rock. The cart hit a rock, and it started to go a little wobbly. And this dude named Uzzah, he came and he stuck out his hoof. Well, he didn't have hoofs, but he stuck out his hand to steady the ark so it wouldn't fall down, dude. And God totally killed him. What? God killed Uzzah? Yeah, because he wasn't obeying God's plan and following God's instructions. David was very sad. But you know what? Eventually, David figured it out. He got the Levite priests. He totally took care of business. And bring the picture over here. Oh, over here? Okay. Oh, I like this picture. Yeah, David was totally stoked. He had all of the people of Israel very happy, and they brought it in the right way, with the priest holding everything, and David danced, and he had such a good time, and there was a big celebration. He followed God's instructions. Poor Uzzah, man.
bit it, but you know what? It's all okay, because ultimately, God's will was done, God's instructions were followed, and that's what we got to do. It's totally important to obey God.
Well, that's right, Maurice. It's very important to obey God in everything we do. Throughout our days, when our day starts, we make mistakes. We think things we shouldn't think. We say things we shouldn't say. We don't always do things the best way. Don't always do things the way God would want us to do.
Dude, you know what? Totally. Like me the other day, I was hanging out at the beach, and I totally dropped in on this guy while I was surfing this wave. I just wouldn't give my wave to him. I just stole the wave from him, and I dropped in, and I'm like, whoop, and I went, yeah, off the lip, and it was so cool. And
Maurice, weren't you talking about something you shouldn't have been doing?
Sorry, man. I just got excited. Yeah, I shouldn't have taken the wave from the guy, but, it was just a killer wave. It was curling. It was so pretty, and I just went for it. Like, yeah.
Well, yeah, Maurice, dropping in on somebody's wave and taking their wave is not a cool thing. God wouldn't want us to do that. But, when it comes to today's lesson, I think you made the point to follow God and to follow His instructions and to do things God's way. And next week we're going to talk about further information about the life of David and how God used David to talk about Jesus coming. So awesome stuff. So Maurice, thank you for coming, and thank you, kids. God bless you today.
God bless you, kids. Have a totally tubular day. Later.